fuckface. Well, sorry, Cool Hand Luke Skywalker. I mean, thank you very much for commenting on this, and I appreciate that. I really do actually appreciate the love there. Where's the comments? But there's more. He wrote a lot more. Okay, so here he wrote another. Okay, so here he wrote. I don't know why it's not showing up, but understand the racist undertone of what he was saying. Roger Waters has a long history of anti-Semitism and speaking rudely towards black people, etc. Look at the video he made directed at Stevie Wonder, where he yells and orders Stevie Wonder not to accept an award. It just so happens that now one of the people he insulted was half Jewish and both of them were black. Roger Waters is a white supremacist. Most everyone his age from England is racist. Roger Waters is a Marxist. Go look up the Marx thought. Look up what Marx thought of black people. Nothing good. Okay, so much in that paragraph. So, what does that say? I also met Sharika Sherrard. Yes, just before her performance, she was just as awesome as online. Sharika is amazing. I absolutely love Sharika. She's so cool. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, and I know I'm in defense of this, but I do want to see the video of him yelling at Stevie Wonder not to take it. So he gets labeled an anti-Semite because he is against, and I don't want to misspeak, but he's against Israeli occupation of Palestine. I believe that's what it is. And I think there has been some issues there. I believe there's been some issues there. I'm not sure if that makes him anti-Semitic. I don't know if that's what it is, but I do want to do a little bit more research on this and kind of find out what's going on with Roger Waters, because Pink Floyd's such a huge influence in my life as a band. Roger Waters, he had a huge influence on the band. That's just a fact. That I don't know where that guy got that information, but Roger Waters was a huge part of Pink Floyd. It wasn't just the three of them. At The Wall, which is another one of their biggest selling albums, it was was mostly written by Roger Waters, which is a huge endeavor. Which is an incredible album. It was such a good album that I think Comfortably Numb was written by David Gilmour, who was going to put it on his solo album, which would have been. It wouldn't have fit. I don't think it would have fit his solo album because his solo album sucked. But let's check this out. So Roger Waters yelling at Stevie Wonder award. So let's see what this is. So here it is, BDS advocate. So BDS is something that has to do with something. So we'll look up to that. So Roger Waters calls on Stevie Wonder not to accept Israel's. Or let me see. Is there videos of him? Roger Waters, with respect, you turned down the Ham Sabin's IDF fundraiser. Please turn down Israel Wolf Prize. Stevie Wonder. Okay, so this is him talking to Stevie Wonder. I don't know if he's saying Stevie Wonder not to take the award because he's black. I don't think so. I kind of find it rude that Roger calls out other musicians on Facebook. The word bullying gets thrown around so much that it loses its meaning, but this is really a form of bullying. So people are not happy about this. So let's look at this.
Roger Waters. I just got an email from my friends in Canada and elsewhere saying that the Israelis are trying to give you something called, I think it's called the Wolf Prize. Let me just check, because this is important, brother. How are you, by the way?
I like that he's trying to talk to Stevie Wonder like he's right there. How are you doing, Stevie? It's good to see you. I wish you could see me. Oh.
Okay, here it comes. Da-da-da-da-da. Open letter to Stevie Wonder calling on him to refuse the Israeli regime's Wolf Prize. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, it's called the Wolf Prize.
So it's not just Roger Waters that's calling on him to refuse it. It's more people than just Roger Waters, was what he's indicating here by whatever he just read online.
Whatever the fuck that is. And frankly, I don't give a damn. But I do remember I reached out to you once before, my friend, and you were about to go and play at some shindig in LA by that arsehole Shaham. Oh, I can't remember his name. But it was to raise money for the Israeli Defense Force so that they could go out and murder more innocent Palestinians with impunity. I can't remember his name, brother, but I'm sure you will. It doesn't matter. I should really do this video after I've done all that research, but I don't have to, because I know you're not going to accept this Wolf Prize, and neither you should. This is an apartheid regime. This is Israel. Israel. You will be whitewashing them beyond all belief if you accept the Wolf Prize. So my friend Karen Rodman from Canada tells me. I'm going to stop going because I'm rambling, obviously. It's kind of late at night, and I've had nearly a whole glass of wine. So I'm not making much sense.
And this is what he put online.
I remember when you used to be little Stevie Wonder, when you were 13 years old, and you were that incredible prodigy. You're still kind of prodigious, and I have huge respect for you, so hear my plea. All right, my lovely. But goodbye.
So,
ladies and
gentlemen, Matt Waters, love you, buddy. Love Matt Waters. So that's weird. I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly he has against. I know that he called Israel an apartheid state, which is some heavy words from Kanye Waters. It's always the lightweights ruining it for us alcoholics. Yeah, he had one glass of wine. He's over here on the internet spouting off some fucking anti-Semitic shit. See, I don't know if it's anti-Semitic or not, because I don't know what's going on over there. I'm not against Israel. I'm not against Palestine. I don't really know what's happening, really. So I am interested to see what's kind of happening and why people are mad at him. So I pulled up some articles. So BDS is this is what BDS is. He's freedom, justice, equality. What is BDS? BDS is boycott, divestment, sanctions, is a Palestinian-led movement for freedom, justice, and equality. BDS upholds the simple principle that Palestinians are entitled to the same rights as the rest of humanity. So that doesn't really tell us a whole lot of what's going on. BDS movement mourns the passive ANC. Let me see let's find out what BDS is, because I don't want to read all that shit. Let's find a video. Oh, shut up, Mike. So in that video we just watched, Roger Waters does not seem to be saying any sort of malice towards Stevie Wonder. He didn't say like, hey, black guy. He didn't say anything like, I hate black people, Stevie Wonder. Don't do things I tell you, because that's what I said for you not to do. It doesn't seem to be that. What is the BDS movement? Let's just go on this one.
Imagine you could get a fine of up to $1 million and 20 years in prison for supporting a boycott. Well, under the guidance of AIPAC, Congress is considering a bill which will do just that. The aim of the bill is to make it illegal to support the BDS movement. It already has nearly 300 co-sponsors among Democrats and Republicans in both houses. But what is BDS? And why is everyone making such a big deal over it? BDS, or Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, has 3 stated goals. 1. Ending the Israeli occupation and colonization of Arab territories. 2. Recognizing the rights of Palestinian citizens of Israel to full equality. 3. Allowing Palestinian refugees to return to their homes and properties as stipulated in UN Resolution 194. The movement emerged in 2005, 3 years after Israel began construction of an illegal separation wall, and a year after the International Court of Justice told Israel that building the wall on occupied Palestinian territory was illegal under international law. They call for a boycott of Israel as a form of nonviolent resistance to the occupation. Israel remains a violation of several United Nations Security Council resolutions relating to illegal settlement activity in occupied areas. Today, BDS is an international grassroots movement led by the largest coalition of Palestinian organizations with many celebrity supporters, including Desmond Tutu, Angela Davis, Roger Waters, President Evo Morales, Stephen Hawking, Adolfo Perez Esquivel, and Russell Brand. The movement maintains that it is an inclusive, anti-racist...
Was it Russell Brand is all about the big dick syndrome?
organization committed to human rights, which opposes both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. However, the movement has been targeted by lawmakers, particularly in the US, UK, and France. Israel claims BDS is anti-Semitic and wants to destroy the Jewish state.
In the past, anti-Semites boycotted Jewish businesses, and today they call for the boycott of the Jewish state.
What's strange is even Jewish groups support the movement, but many politicians seem to be buying it, especially in the US. In 2016, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signed an executive order that stopped the state of New York doing business with companies and organizations that support BDS. In the U.S.
So, if this video is to be trusted, which we don't know, it seems like Israel is in violations of several international laws. Seems that they are encroaching on Palestinian people, but it also seems like that Israel had to fight for their space on Earth. So, I mean, I'm not against that. I'm not, look, I don't even know what's going on with this shit, but I'm not for or against anything right here. I'm not trying to take a stand. I'm just trying to understand what's going on and try to get a little bit more information about why people are calling Roger Waters racist and an anti-Semite. That's the main thing here. It's interesting that Russell Brand is on board with that, because I really like Russell Brand. I think he's a pretty good social commentator these days.
Alone, a total of 21 states have passed laws against working with companies that are involved in the BDS movement. Similar legislation has been considered in Britain and in France. But many feel that this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism and think that the move hampers free speech. They argue that their personal views on boycotting Israel shouldn't be interfered with by the state. These voices have expressed concern inside and outside Israel, as criticism of Israel is more frequently labeled as anti-Semitic. But critics of BDS also have another concern. Here's the U.S. ambassador to the UN saying Israel is being unfairly targeted.
How tragic is it that of all countries in the world to condemn for human rights violations, these voices choose to single out Israel?
Okay, so obviously the Jews and Israeli, especially Israeli Jews or Jews, European Jews, a lot of Jewish folks have been singled out and enslaved, attempted to be wiped off the faces of Earth from a crazy fucking Austrian. So it's interesting, but does that mean that they can't turn around and cause problems for other people? Does that mean that because they were oppressed and tried to be was attempted to be exterminated or enslaved, does that mean that they don't have the ability to do the same stuff? Is that what that means? Are they off the table? Can we not talk about them and the atrocities that they commit, which we don't know what's real really at this point? It does seem like this is a pro BDS video. I don't know if this conflict will ever be resolved. I don't know either. I know this is like old school, conflict that's been going for years, for almost 100 years now, right? And even further back than that. But I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that Israel became a country in the 30s or 40s or something. That's right. I think so. It wasn't too long ago. So what she's saying is, I feel like that's the essential argument. It's like they can do no wrong because they've been oppressed. It's like saying that you can't talk about or criticize black people because black people have been enslaved and have been oppressed. It's like, no, everyone is capable of evil. Everyone is capable of lying. Everyone is capable of the worst atrocities towards mankind. 49, I believe, it was created after World War II as a safe space. Thank you, Bon Bon. So I was a little off. Corona BDS. I haven't. Movie Dutchman has Corona big dick syndrome. Your dick gets bigger with coronavirus. Wouldn't that be tight for all the dudes if coronavirus made your dick bigger instead of making you unable to eat fucking sour cream for the rest of your life? God damn it. I love sour cream. I loved it at one point. Tight indeed. Bomba. Very tight. All right, let's see what this lady said. Again, I'm not taking sides here, anyone, so don't get mad at me for this. But, but you know, I don't like that argument. I never liked that argument saying that because a certain people have been oppressed, and therefore they don't have the ability to oppress other people. And that, to me, it doesn't make sense because that's not where I lost some weight, but I think that was because walks in Amsterdam. Yeah, man, vacation walking will get you down a couple pounds. Let's finish this.
And here's world-renowned human rights advocate Naomi Klein's response to that.
The question is not, is Israel the worst state in the world? That's not what anyone is saying, and it's not true. The question is, what do you do when people under illegal occupation come together and chart out a way for the rest of the world to express their solidarity and support them?
The movement has had some successes. Many companies, including Barkin Wines and SodaStream, have stopped operations in occupied territories. G4S has left Israel completely. And the World Bank reports that Israeli imports from Palestine have decreased 24%, due in part to the boycott. Israel now recognizes BDS as a strategic threat and has committed a ministry to countering BDS. So does boycotting Israel make you anti-Semitic?
Does it? Interesting. I'm not sure. Let's see what people say in the Congress. And when it is said to them, do not cause corruption on earth, they say, we are but reformers. Everyone should have the right to an opinion. Writing it into law that they can't have one, even if it's wrong, is wrong in itself. To write such into law is a snuff film of freedoms. You're killing what your forefathers stood for. The right to still coexist while disagreeing, for if you can't disagree in words, you will eventually force hands to do more than have a verbal exchange, as the oppression against holders of a view boil over in silence till they pop. Damn, that's pretty dope. But especially if you have BDS, your butt's gonna get reformed, bro. The red light district will wear you out. Yeah, indeed. That red light, smoke weed, hit the red light district, fucking work up an appetite, go eat some weed stuff, get right back at it. Moving Dutchman, it was very busy. That's how you got the corona. It was in the red light district, sir. When you want to know who controls the system, ask yourself, who am I not allowed to even criticize? That's a good indicator. Who are you not allowed to criticize? That's always a good indicator. BDS need to be more present on social media. This is a complicated speech issue on its face, but it's pretty straightforward. As much as Israel talks about how BDS activists should be attacking other country instead of them, there is no other country that can have a boycott made illegal in America. Just compare it to Russia. Russia is involved in a border skirmish with a country that was a part of Russia 30 years ago. Israel is stealing land from its neighbors that has no claim on it at all. From countries that are not threats to Israel. Anti-Semitic has become a politicized term. It does not mean anti-Israel or anti-Jew. It means anti-Semite, people who live near the east. Saying that being against Israel is anti-Semite is like saying being against India is racist, against North Korea is anti-Marxist. So going back to this guy's statement over here, fucking Roger Waters is a white supremacist. Everyone his age from England is racist. Roger Waters is a Marxist. Go look up what Marx thought of black people. And that's true. Marx had very, very low opinions on black people. Very, very low opinions. It's very interesting that these like Black Lives Matter leaders who are saying they're trained Marxists, it's very interesting that they're taking on these words when you can't. So we're supposed to stop paying attention to and stop listening to, stop reading. Anybody who isn't anti-racist or anybody who isn't on the side of, let's just say Black Lives Matter, but yet they'll incorporate Marxist sentiment and Marxist ideology into their own ideology from someone who is fervently racist against black people. So it's that kind of hypocrisy, I think, that people are getting wrapped up in, and it really sucks because I'm not sure. It's just interesting that people aren't able to sort of discern that hypocrisy, or at least ignore they'll just ignore that. They'll just ignore it like it doesn't exist. And if you bring it up, they'll be like, end of interview, end of sentence. I'm not talking about this. So it does seem like there's probably some validity against this movement. There are people probably being encroached upon. There are probably some human rights that are getting stepped on. Again, I'm not taking any sides here. I don't really have all the information. We just watched one video on YouTube. So, what the fuck do I know? But when you look at it through the lens of how we mark people and we other people these days, it does seem like Roger Waters is just getting othered because he's taken up a political stance. It's just like, I'm going to be Republican now, which I'm not, but I'm going to be Republican. And now in some circles, I'm a racist. I'm a white supremacist because I decided I'm going to be Republican. And again, I'm not Republican. Red light district is not interesting anymore. Only for the coffee shops, maybe, if you are into all sorts of weed. When I was 18, I flew to Miami and Aruba with black Afghan weed in my wallet. I threw it away years later, probably still in good condition. Yeah, moving judgment. Get it. People are throwing around the is too much. Yes. I had one weed peanut butter cup Sunday night that had 600 milligrams of THC in it. I got so sick I threw up, but then was super horny, so it's a complicated state to be. Oh, that is a complicated state to be in. It's just so high. Oh, man, I haven't been high like that in a long time. Oh, no, I drank a whole water bottle. It said 50 servings. Oh, Jesus, God. You must have been so fucked up. It took me a day to get off the couch. Pretty sure I was in a different realm of existence. Yeah, I'm guessing so too, man. God damn, you guys are making me want to get high as fuck. That's why I'm gonna go to Seattle and get shitty. I'm gonna get shitty high. 600 milligrams, I would see dead people. Yeah, 600 milligrams is a lot. That is a lot. But hey, to each their own. I mean, if 600 milligrams gets you to that place, girl, go ahead, get on. Get at it. Okay, so let's sort of see what. Let's see if there's another video. What is BDS movement? Is it anti-Semitic? Anti-Semitism.
In recent years, the question of what can and cannot be defined as anti-Semitism, especially with regard to Israel, has been hotly debated in connection with the BDS movement. What is this movement? What are its goals? And what characterizes its activity?
BDS stands for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, and it is a movement that tries to isolate Israel from the international community by encouraging consumer boycotts of Israeli goods, or boycotts of Israeli artists, or to try and persuade Western artists not to perform in Israel, sanctions by governments, and divestment by institutions in the West to basically pull their money out of Israel, not do business with Israel. And it's a model which is based on anti-apartheid campaigns that were used against apartheid South Africa, which really built a global structure of boycott and isolation of South Africa in the 1970s and 1980s up until the end of apartheid. Now, on the face of it, these tactics are a legitimate way to conduct non-violent, legal, political campaigns. And they have a long tradition in not just left-wing politics of using boycotts to try and affect change in foreign governments. Just because a liberal-minded person who cares about humanitarian issues worries about the condition of the Palestinians, feels they have a right to statehood, and decides as a result they're going to buy a Spanish orange instead of an Israeli one in their supermarket, it doesn't make them an anti-Semite. It doesn't even necessarily mean that they want Israel to disappear. There's a whole range of motivations behind people who follow the BDS movement. So I don't think we can say BDS is anti-Semitic, but as with everything in life, things are a little bit more complicated if you look beneath the surface. Once you start to look at who are the organizations behind this BDS strategy, who are the leaders of the movement, what do they say about Israel, what do they actually want, what you find more often than not is that there is an overarching political vision that doesn't include Israel's existence in the future. BDS movements, BDS campaigns often keep their aims vague and ambiguous precisely because it can draw in people from a whole range of political backgrounds and views. But the people running the campaigns quite often are from a much more hardline anti-Zionist position that they want Israel to go.
The essence of this movement is to create an intellectual environment whereby the very existence of the state of Israel.
So, like a lot of movements, there's this broad overviews of what they're about, and then when you get to the core of the movement, there is, that's where shit gets a little wonky, right? And so, if at the core of BDS movement is people who are like, we need to just eliminate Israel off the face of the planet, and that's not good. That's not good at all. Then that's something that shouldn't be supported, I suppose. But again, that's just one guy. This is our second YouTube video. Who fucking knows? Propaganda comes in all forms, shapes, and sizes. It's really hard to discern any of this shit anymore.
Israel is illegitimate. Now, this is something that is difficult to notice because many people who are part of the movement, of the BDS movement, of the battle to delegitimize Israel, will argue that they are actually non-violent protesters against Zionism. And a lot of people, when they hear non-violent, they think, these are Gandhi, these are Martin Luther King. And there is a tendency to assume that if the means of struggle are non-violent, therefore it must be a noble struggle for a good cause. But of course, there's no relationship. You can have a very bloody and violent struggle that is waged for a very noble cause. In fact, most of the world's noble battles were bloody and violent. And this is less intuitive, you can have a non-violent struggle for a very violent purpose, for a very ignoble purpose. And this is exactly the essence of the movement to delegitimize Israel. The movement works by a very simple strategy, which I've come to call the placard strategy. People know it. You go to any anti-Israel demonstration, they hold placards. What do these placards say? The placards say they're equations. They say Israel, Zionism. Sometimes they just draw a Star of David, equals. Now, this strategy has been so effective, these equations have been so effective, that even people who know very little about Israel, even people who love Israel, know exactly what these equations say. The strategy has been so effective that it equates Zionism, Israel, and the Star of David with apartheid, and Nazism, and genocide, and colonialism, and racism, and imperialism. And those who engage in the placard strategy will say, what? We're merely describing reality. This is what Zionism is. This is what Israel is. And of course, it bears no relation to reality. The reason that those words are chosen is that by now those words have reached a consensus that they're evil. So basically what the placard strategy does is expose people to this refrain that says, Israel, Zionism, Star of David equal evil. Israel, Zionism, Star of David equal evil. Now, why is that important? Because most of people, for them to carry out acts of mass violence, they need an ideology. They're not psychopaths, only few humans are. So for people to be violent, to carry out a genocide, they need to believe that what they're about to do is good. And there is no greater good in this world than the eradication of evil.
That's some deep ass shit. And yeah, you're right. It sounds like China. It sounds like fucking people talking about Republicans. It literally does. It literally does, like when people or even the right wing, right? Because you're right wing, you're anti-woman, you're anti fucking equality, you're anti all this stuff. People who lean towards the right always get sort of grouped into these weird labels. And so what she's saying is terrifying, because we're seeing that right now in our own country, where we're sort of labeling everybody these things like you're racist, you're a Nazi, you're evil. And like she's saying, it's easier to get a bunch of people to think that they're doing good in a violent way when you have these labels that are attached to people. It's fascinating.
So if you create an intellectual mindset that says Israel, Zionism, Star of David equals evil, you are basically creating a global invitation to mass violence. You are saying, look, there's an evil out there. Do whatever you can, by whatever means necessary, to eradicate this evil. Zionism is the stumbling block, is the thing that stands between the world and utopia. If only we didn't have Zionism. It's about an image, creating an image where there is a world without Israel. And then we can say, isn't it a much nicer world? Look at the UN, look at FIFA. Wouldn't they be so much nicer without Israel? And this is why this movement is so dangerous. It is a non-violent movement for an extremely violent purpose.
So there's two kind of different takes on it, right? So one person is sort of just like describing it as people talking out on atrocities, and then some people think it's, they're demonizing Israel. That is interesting. That's very interesting.
Israel could lose up to $11.5 billion a year if the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement peaks. That's if the EU legislates to boycott all Israeli goods and blocks foreign investment into the state. Is this likely to happen? Well, opinions vary. Israel's government economists say it's hard to predict, but it is possible. Foreign investment into Israel fell to around $6 billion in 2014. That's the same year they launched a deadly offensive on Gaza that killed 1,462 civilians.
Jesus.
But by 2016, that figure had doubled to almost $12 billion. What about exports? Washington-based Brookings Institute says consumer boycotts won't drastically affect Israel's economy. The data from the World Bank shows Israel's intermediate exports dropped by nearly $8 billion in that same period. Consumer boycotts work with academic and cultural boycotts. If people refuse to work with Israeli academic institutions for their involvement in, let's say, the strategies behind the use of disproportionate force against the Palestinians, or musicians refuse to perform in Israel in solidarity with the people of Gaza and the West Bank, it gets people talking. Lord, Elvis Costello, Lauryn Hill, they've all refused to play in Israel. And other artists are openly advocating for BDS.
How can I work with any institution complicit in Israeli human rights abuses?
These smaller boycotts are supposed to start a chain reaction.
Sanctions is the ultimate. That's why it's BDS. S comes at the end. It's no coincidence, because you need a lot of B and D to reach the S.
And it's slowly working. Companies are closing up shop in Israel. Some have been refused lucrative contracts explicitly for their involvement in Israeli occupation projects. Others are speculated to have been pressured by the BDS campaign into submission. But whatever their motives, they've divested from Israel. A UN report has also found 206 companies that are linked to illegal settlements. The companies' activities range from banking and telecom to construction and tourism. Their names are being withheld until they've all been contacted. US Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley reportedly threatened the UN Human Rights Council with a cut in funding if their names were to be published. South American states have also disassociated themselves. Venezuela and Bolivia have cut ties with Israel, and Brazil refused to allow former leader of the settler movement, Danny Dayan, to be Israel's ambassador in the country.
The communities we established decades ago in the Jordan Valley will be here forever because they are essential for Israel's existence.
BDS, more than anything, is impacting brand Israel.
I'm less concerned today about any potential economic consequences. It's all about what you think of Israel, and whether you think Israelis are the good guys or the bad guys.
Image on the world stage would matter to any country. It's no different for Israel. Many prominent Israelis have claimed BDS is anti-Semitic and even a threat to the existence of Israel itself.
We're in the midst of an orchestrated global campaign to delegitimize Israel.
Mr. Asad Abu Khalil, who he knows very well, is a leader of the BDS movement. He writes, the real aim of BDS is to bring down the state of Israel.
The objectives of the BDS movement are: one, the liberation and the end of this occupation. Number two, the return of refugees to their homes and to their livelihoods. Number three is the end of apartheid and segregation and discrimination against Palestinians inside Israel and everywhere else.
Israel has refused all three time and again. The Netanyahu government instead enacted anti-BDS legislation at home and gave covert power to the Ministry of Strategic Affairs to tackle BDS abroad. They successfully lobbied a number of US states to punish supporters of the movement.
24 states have passed laws restricting their business with companies that boycott Israel just in the past 2.5 years. And these states are saying, we regard boycotting Israel to be a form of national, religious, or ethnic discrimination. It's bigotry, and we won't do business with it.
The ministry has since established a commando unit ordered to launch campaigns against pro-Palestinian projects. BDS has now been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. At the same time, Israel has banned the members of 20 activist groups from entering the country, including the Jewish Voice for Peace. Although Israel's economy has not been crippled by boycotts and divestments, the movement is having a serious impact on the country's reputation.
So again, you have propaganda coming from all different sides. It does seem like this movement has affected them monetarily, and I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what to even think, because there's so much to it. Is that at the core of this trying to eliminate the existence of Israel, which I don't think should be what, I don't think that's the right answer. Are people getting oppressed by Palestinians? Are they being oppressed if they live in the Israeli state? I don't know. I had a Jewish friend who broke it down kind of for me once, but I don't remember how it went. He went into depth about what's going on, because he's Jewish. He went to Israel for the thing that Jewish people do when they go to Israel. Sorry if I don't know what it's called. So let's see what people are saying about Roger Waters now. All that just to sort of get an idea of what we're going into. June 2022, for nearly 2 decades, rock music icon Roger Waters has been one of the most prominent and outspoken supporters of BDS movement. He has refused to perform in Israel and urged fellow artists to follow suit, and has often used inflammatory rhetoric against the country. ADL is reportedly called out Waters for his hateful rhetoric dating back to 2013 letters suggesting that his anti-Israel views may be colored as anti-Semitism. In a recent interview with Palestinian news agency Sheb, Waters employed a range of anti-Semitic tropes, claiming the U.S. is being controlled by blue Jewish Republican donor Sheldon Adelson, whom he described as a puppet master who has filled the coffers and pulling all the strings on U.S. policy regarding Israel-Palestine. Now, is that possible? Is it possible? That sounds terrible, but is that possible? Is it possible for politicians to be bought and sold? Is it possible for certain companies to coerce and buy politicians to push certain movements, to push certain products, to push certain? Does that happen? Does corporations, are corporations allowed to pay off some of these politicians to get their products across the line, and so people can buy them or jump to the front of the list, or get vaccines approved and forced upon people? Is that happening? Can that happen? Do they pay? Do they fund certain research organizations, to federal research organizations, to get their own answers that they want? Do they pay? So that is possible. I think if that's possible, I think it's possible for someone to do that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm saying it's possible. And does that make Roger Waters an anti-Semite? I don't know. This is not the first time Waters have used anti-Semitic and anti-Zionistic rhetoric. In May 2019, Waters appeared to compare Israelis to aliens in a rant about Israel hosting the 2019 Eurovision concert. That same month, he has headlined an event in the University of Massachusetts sponsored by a number of pro-BDS student organizations. At the August 2018 concert, Poland Waters projected the phase Resist Israel Anti-Semitism onto the stage where he was performing. In 2013 interview with the left-wing website Counterpunch, he suggested that some artists don't take controversial positions on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, partly because the Jewish lobby is extraordinarily powerful in the U.S. music industry. He also claimed that right-wing rabbinate is, I don't know what that means, rabbinate, I don't know, is possible for promoting bigotry against non-Jews among Israelis. Hold on, let me grab my tinfoil hat before I tell you what I think. Get that shit, get it going, twist it up, let's go. I want to know. So I tend to be weary of going all in on saying that Primordial Sounds, welcome in, y'all. Thank you so much for that raid. I appreciate you. We're just talking about Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, and we're trying to find out if he is racist anti-Semite. So, hey. Oh, thank you so much. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you guys so much. Pull a chair up. We're doing some music news. You know what? Why don't we take a break? And we'll come back to the Roger Waters Pink Floyd issue. Why don't we do a raid song for the Raiders? This song is my new song that's coming out July 29th, Friday, July 29th. Who happens to be on the show that day? Don't ruin Roger Waters for me, bro. We're trying to figure it out because he keeps getting being labeled anti-Semitic. And you know, I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, and I don't want to believe that he's anti-Semitic. I don't think he is, but you know, people paint pictures how they want to this way. Morby, what's up? All right, guys, let's play this new song that I wrote and I created a video for just today. What happened? Oh, Chris Fox Music, thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate you. This comes out July 29th, which also Risky Biscuit Band will be on the show that day as well. So buckle up and you can get a... and you can find, yes, the new song is here. You can pre-save in that link right there. Let's get into this new song. This is called Boobs, an ode to consent. Thank you, Always Sandy. I appreciate you. I appreciate that follow, guys. Thank you so much for the raid. My name is Mike. I am a musician. I'm also a podcaster. We do music news here. We interview musicians, and we go in depth on, you know, and right now we're trying to find out if Roger Waters of Pink Floyd is racist, which I hope he's not, but I don't know. It's weird. Okay, guys, let's get into this new song, and this is for the raid. Thank you guys so much for coming over. Here's Boobs.
May I have a yes for your breath?
Don't you acquiesce, I want a real yes. If you don't want to bang, let's stay up just to hang. I want you into this so I can give you sexy bliss. And if you change your mind, we can still have a really good time. All I wanna do is touch your boobs, if that's right with you. Consent is what I do before I touch your boob. All I wanna do is touch your boobs, if that's right with you. Consent is what I do before I touch your boob. I will take a cold shower, then let's talk about girl power. I just want to make you happy with those boobs. You may slap me, let's not rush this love connection. This is deeper than my erection. If you reject my male gaze, I'll look away and feel ashamed. All I wanna do is touch your boobs, if that's right with you. Consent is what I do before I touch your boobs. All I wanna do is touch your boobs, if that's right with you. Consent is what I do before I touch your boobs. If yes means yes, and no means no, then baby, let me finger blast your soul. All I wanna do is touch your boobs, if that's right with you. Consent is what I do before I touch your boobs. All I wanna do is touch your boobs, if that's right with you. Consent is what I do before I touch your boobs.
May I have a yes to grab him breath?
Oh, God damn it. That stupid fucking warning. Every time. Every fucking time. It's been doing that ever since. Oh my God. What's up, everybody? I hope y'all enjoy it. American Shocker. That's right. It's the American Shocker. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for being here. All our new friends. Thank you guys so much for the follows. Let's go catch up. Morby, welcome in. I'm glad you got to catch the new song. Make sure you guys are pre-saving that. That comes out July 20th. Mighty, thank you so much. My goodness, look at it raining all that biddy love. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Let's see here. Still blocked on my school internet. They know I shouldn't follow boobs. Yeah. It didn't beat the algorithm today. I had no idea what this is pure magic. Yeah, Chris Fox, thank you so much. I appreciate that love. I knew the Primo's chat would. I knew your chat wouldn't be ready. No, no one's ready for that. I'm almost 40, going on 12. Everybody, how could I have ever known this is what I needed today? You never know. Yeah, the American Shocker. I thought that was funny too. I'm so glad that you saw that. Papacito, what's going on, Papacito? We got a whole brand new American banger classic. This is the cure for everything that's wrong with America. Let it be known that where were you when this class it was made? Right here in the chat. That's right. We're out here. We're doing it. That slaps. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Perfect song for Hot Boy Summer. Somebody said that. I think Robbie said that that's the sequel to Hot Boy Summer. Biddies for the titties. That's right. Literally biddies for the titties. I appreciate that, you guys. I hope you guys go and check out the album. Pre-save the song if you guys want to. Germs are fun. Thank you so much for that follow. I truly appreciate you. So getting back to sort of our music news today, because we were covering some music news. We were going over Roger Waters, who is formerly of Pink Floyd. Look at all those emotes going all nutty buddy. What? God, get your mouth right, Mike. Get your mouth right. And again, welcome all the Raiders. I really appreciate y'all being here, and I'm glad you enjoyed that. So Roger Waters is a former member of Pink Floyd. He is also being labeled as an anti-Semite because he supports this organization called BDS, Big Dick Syndrome. No, that's not what it is. He supports this. BDS is a organization that supports fair treatment of Palestinians in Israel. But we're finding out more and more about what BDS is at their core. And some people say that BDS at their core is anti-Semitic and they want to. And isn't this lovely? Right after that silly song, we're going right into, is Roger Waters racist? We got to know. So Roger Waters, we were reading about it. So far, we've read a few articles about how everyone thinks he's racist. And this all sort of stemmed from our article that we went over on Monday that was saying that that Roger Waters thinks he's better than The Weeknd and Drake, or he's more important than them. Boobs and then racist music artists. Don't say something against BDS. Their fan base is brutal. They call themselves Army even. Yeah, well, I know. I'm not against or for them. I don't really know too much about them, honestly, because we're getting conflicted messages. So, of course, people who are pro-Israel is like, hey, these are evil at their core. They're anti-Semites. And then they're saying that, and then BDS is like, hey, we're just there's human rights violations going on. Israel is breaking several international laws, and that that something needs to be done. So they're asking for sanctions and boycotts. And so Roger Waters will ask other artists not to perform in Israel. Certain artists won't perform in Israel. There's a whole slew of American artists that won't perform in Israel. Of course, Israel is a huge ally of America. So there's politicians here who are. Isn't that BTS? No, it's not BTS. I think that went over. WS is just K-pop BTS. Oh yes, I see what you're saying. My bad. Listen, I'm so in it. I just want to find out. And I don't think Roger Waters. I honestly don't think that he harbors hate in his heart for anybody. But sometimes celebrities can get involved in organizations that might not be the greatest. Bundische Sports Season. I don't know what that means, but we'll find out. I don't think boycotting Israel is inherently racist. I don't think so either, especially if they are actually committing, atrocities and crimes against a whole group of people. Now, if the organization at its core stands for the elimination of the entire state or an entire country of Israel, then I would say that sucks. But no one should have to suffer at the hands of anybody. So this is from the Jerusalem Post. This is and this is definitely going to be anti-Roger Waters because obviously it's the Jerusalem Post. Heck, there is a debate if Jews are a race. We went over that before here. Yeah. Roger Waters getting a taste of his own medicine, and this is from 2020. So this is deep into the pandemic. So British musician Roger Waters, 76, has made the headlines once again, this time complaining that he has been banned from Pink Floyd's official site and social media by his former bandmates David Gilmour in a 5-minute video he released on May 19th. Waters shared his deep frustration with his former partner's refusal to let him use the band's official platforms, supporting his claims with some very specific facts. In psychoanalysis, this kind of behavior is commonly known as projection, which is a basic psychological defense mechanism that allows humans to deny the existence of certain feelings and tendencies in themselves while attributing them to others. In this case, Gilmour is the subject of the projection. This gifted, pleasant, and well-mannered musician who had never been associated with any controversy is now being accused of using banishment as a legitimate tool in conflict resolution, and the very accusation is coming from the abuser himself. Projection 101. Roger Waters. So this is not very friendly Roger Waters. So they're referring to a video that he made, and I'm not sure what this video is about. So we're gonna watch this video that Roger Waters posted on his page, on his Facebook page, oh, it's a music video. That's not music. That's not what we wanted. Release May. Wait a second. This is a music video. I don't know if we can play this. No. So this was a video we watched earlier where he's talking about Stevie Wonder. He's calling on Stevie Wonder not to accept an award. And this all stems from my article we read. And someone wrote on the article that Roger Waters has a long history of anti-Semitism and speaking rudely toward black people. Look at the video he made directed at Stevie Wonder, which we watched earlier, where he yells and orders Stevie Wonder not to accept the award. It just so happens that now one of the people he insulted is half Jewish, and both of them were black. First of all, Roger Waters didn't even know who Drake or The Weeknd was. He was stating in an article that he was more important than Drake and The Weeknd. He didn't even know who these people were, so I doubt if he was going after them for being black or half Jewish. But this is weird trying to listen with your song stuck in my head. I know, okay? I know that the juxtaposition is fucking odd, all right? I get it. I don't want it, I hate the idea of Roger Waters being racist, but who knows? I don't think he is. I honestly don't think he's a racist.
Later. Rain, then showers, moderate or poor becoming gale 6 to gale 8, occasionally severe gale 9.
Show me the shine.
Oh shit, a lot of musicians are assholes. Go figure, right? One of them right here. So we can't listen to that. That's a music video. So what video? A 5-minute video released on May 19th. Waters shared his deep frustration with former partners. So I want to see the stupid video. So they're basically saying that he didn't get access to Pink Floyd's website, and I guess they're saying because he was, because he's anti-Semite. On social media, most of the fans seem to believe that Waters and Gilmore should bury the hatchet. Yeah, I agree with that. They should just get over that shit. I wish I could find the video. David Gilmour won't budge. Roger Waters says David Gilmour banned him. Here we go. This is the video. Where is the video? Oh, you will continue in 3 seconds. Close this, cancel that. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, guys. Announcement from Roger Waters. I'm just muting the sound because that's totally copywritten music that I can't be playing here.
Okay. This is by way of being a sort of a public announcement.
Look at this guy.
I rarely speak to fans of Pink Floyd, but that is what I'm doing now. First of all, thank you so much for all the lovely comments that have come back after the band and I put together that version of Mother. It was a lot of fun to do, and it reminded me how much I miss them. And no, it's not Dave Gilmour, it's Dave Kilminster. Dave Kilminster, who's the guy with the black flowing locks sitting on the sofa playing the electric guitar. So that's got that cleared up. But it did make me think, the fact, I think
he is British.
1.5 million of you have viewed our new version of Mother, which is lovely. It really warms my heart, I have to say. But it does bring up the question of why is this video not available on a website that calls itself the Pink Floyd website? Well, the answer to that is because nothing from me is on the website. I am banned by David Gilmour from the website. About a year ago, I convened a sort of Camp David for the surviving members of Pink Floyd, a hotel at the airport in London, and where I proposed all kinds of measures to get past this awful impasse that we have and predicament we find ourselves in. It bore no fruit, I'm sorry to say, but one of the things that I asked for, I suggested that because whoever the 30 million of you are who subscribe to the webpage, you do so because of the body of work that the five of us created. That's Sid, me, Rick, Nick, and David.
The emotionalist face is freaking you out. He, like, again, Roger Waters is a prick. There's no doubt about it. He's a prick. You can see he's a fucking stuck-up asshole. But does that make him racist? He supports this ideology, this organization. And I honestly don't think so. I think the conclusion here is that I don't think he's racist. I think he's just standing up politically for things. Pink Floyd has always stood up politically for certain issues, and that's very divisive. Now, what is BDS? I don't know. Is it at its core a terribly racist, horrible organization, or is it an organization that's fighting for the rights of people who are getting oppressed and mistreated in Israel? I don't know. Pink Floyd gave me FOMO. Gave him FOMO. They did. He does have Pink Floyd FOMO. So now we're just sort of going to wind down with this video that was targeted by the Jerusalem News for whatever reason, which we can go back and find out. So let's. I'm interested in this just because I love Pink Floyd history.
Over a number of years. And in consequence, it seems to me that it would be fair and correct if we should have equal access to you all. And if we share our projects and blah and blah and blah and blah. David thinks he owns it. I think he thinks that because I left the band in 1985, that he owns Pink Floyd, that he is Pink Floyd, had nothing that really, I'm irrelevant, and I should just keep my mouth shut and blah. All right, we're all welcome to our opinions, but there have been rumblings and grumblings in the ranks, I'm told, by friends of mine who follow these things, and some of the questions being asked are, why do we have to sit and watch Polly Sampson for year after year, month after month, day after day? And the Von Trapps reading us excerpts from their novels to get us to go to sleep at night. And that's a very good question. And yet, we don't get to hear about anything that Roger's doing or about this is not a drill, or when he makes a piece of work, it's not shown, and so on and so forth. And none of his work is publicised. The fact that his and Sean Evans' film, Us and Them, which has just gone out digitally for streaming everywhere, is not mentioned. There's no mention. We're not allowed to even mention such a fact on the official Pink Floyd website. This is wrong. We should rise up. Or just change the name of the band to Spinal Tap, and then everything will be hunky-dory. All right, I'm not going to get all weird and sarcastic. Those, you know.
What's the background fucking noise? And you are getting weird and sarcastic, Roger Waters, you weird fuck.
That is a direction in which I am known to sometimes lean temperamentally. So thank you again for all your love and warm feelings sent in about Mother. Stay safe. All of you. We live in dire, desperate times, and we need to find ways to communicate with one another so that we can act cooperatively to stop the man destroying this fragile planet that we all call home. That is the elephant in the room. Yeah, and Leah, there you are, beautiful. It's still on the wall. That's a message to the lady who painted that picture, which I bought a number of years ago. And I know she knows that I've still got it, and it's on the wall. All right. That is all I have to say this morning.
So there you go. He's not allowed to be on the website. They don't want him doing shit on the website. They don't want him fucking anywhere near the website. We need Serge to really take up a stand from System of a Down. If we're talking about political activists, I think he's a little out of his depth and range to grab full concept of what the group is trying to promote. The Spinal Tap reference was awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, they're not gonna. And I mean, when Roger Waters left the band, he did try to sue them to get them to change their name, and that didn't end up working. And so he's been this bitter asshole ever since, which I can imagine. I mean, he was one of the founding members. Here's the thing: David Gilmour came into the band after Syd Barrett left, so it was originally Nick Mason, Richard Wright, David Gilmour, and Roger Waters. And then David Gilmour came in, sort of changed the game for the band, and so the fact that David Gilmour sort of came in and took it up is funny. But wait, what's Dave Chappelle do? Dave Chappelle is nominated for an Emmy Award right now for his last stand-up special. Which, you know, if you guys know anything about Dave Chappelle, he was Rose Floyd, Coral Floyd, Fuchsia Floyd. Change the name. So I think Jerusalem Times is over here trying to say that the Jerusalem Post, is trying to say that, you know, they don't, Pink Floyd doesn't, you know, want him in there because he's anti-Semitic. I think that's what this gets to. He called Israel an apartheid state, accused its government of using Nazi propaganda efforts, and labeled Israel as the worst human rights offender in the world, while conveniently ignoring the rest of the world. Almost every prominent musician who intends to perform in Israel is publicly exposed by Waters, who routinely urges them to cancel their planned trips. Waters explains his fixation on Israel as deep care for human rights, although his voice had not been heard much regarding other lingering geopolitical, religious, and ethnic crises. So they're trying to say that Floyd Rose, already, that I don't know if they could do that. They after a fucking whammy bar, but maybe. Radiohead's Tom York blasted him for wrongly misusing the term apartheid in context. See, I want to fucking hear Tom. I want to hear Roger Waters on. Roger Waters. Let's hear from the man himself. Speaks on BDS. So here, Pink Floyd, Roger, BDS, one of the most admirable displays of existence in the world.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Hey,
Today
Amy
we spend
Goodman.
the hour with the world-famous British musician Roger.
I remember when Amy Goodman was awesome, and now it's just a very, very one-sided fucking news organization, but they're still pretty good.
Waters, founding member of the iconic rock band Pink Floyd. The band is perhaps most well known for their records The Wall and The Dark Side of the Moon. Roger Waters recently released his first new studio album in 25 years and is touring stadiums across the country. But the tour has not been without controversy. Waters is scheduled to play on Friday and Saturday nights in Long Island, despite attempts by Nassau County officials to shut down the concerts, which will take place at the county-owned Nassau Coliseum. The reason? Waters' outspoken support for BDS, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement targeting Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. Nassau County officials had claimed the concerts would violate a local law which prohibits the county from doing business with any company participating in the economic boycott of Israel. Waters has also been met by protests on many other stops on the tour. Ahead of his concert in Miami, the Greater Miami Jewish Federation took out a full-page ad in the Miami Herald with the headline, "Anti-Semitism and hatred are not welcome in Miami." The group also pressured the city of Miami Beach to prevent a group of school children from appearing on stage with Waters to sing during the concert.
Damn.
Despite all this, Roger Waters has continued to speak out. Last week, he wrote a piece in the New York Times. The op-ed was headlined, "Congress Shouldn't Silence Human Rights Advocates." In the op-ed, he criticized a bill being considered in the Senate to silence supporters of BDS. Waters writes, quote, "By endorsing this McCarthyite bill, senators would take away Americans' First Amendment rights in order to protect Israel from nonviolent pressure to end its 50-year-old occupation of Palestinian territory and other abuses of Palestinian rights." Well, Democracy Now!'s Nermeen Sheikh and I spoke to Roger Waters on Wednesday. I began by asking him to respond to a recent statement by Howard Coppell, a Nassau County legislator who attempted to shut down Roger Waters' upcoming concerts in Long Island. He called Waters a, quote, virulent anti-Semite and said, quote, "Embrace the BDS movement and Nassau will not do business with you. There is no room for hatred in Nassau."
The first thing that leaps out of that statement is the notion that I might be in some way anti-Semitic or against Jewish people or against the Jewish religion or against anything that has Jewishness or attached to it, because I'm not. I'm clearly not. You know, they come from my past and they find it very difficult to substantiate that accusation. But they use that accusation, as they do with anybody who supports BDS or anybody who criticizes Israeli foreign policy or the occupation. That is their standard go-to response, is to call you an anti-Semite, to start calling you names, and hopefully to discredit you.
Right. Okay. And we kind of went over this, and I like how they're labeling them legendary rock musicians. So, like, how things work now is that we just call people racist, Nazis, anti-Semites, if we want people to not pay attention to them or not take them seriously. So that's he's addressing that. And that is a true statement. We do that. If we want people to ignore someone in this country, or to even advocate violence towards someone, or be okay with violence towards someone, we label them as white supremacists or other, whatever it is, right? Republicans. He does have a point when it is, even if it's a wrong point, it's the freedom for him to be allowed to prove that point to the best of his ability, not to censor his right to freedom of speech. Right. And then so this bill apparently is a bill where it sort of puts a stop to people speaking out upon Israel, which Israel is a huge ally of the United States. And, I don't know if it's true, but we kind of went over this a little bit earlier, where Roger Waters is quoted saying that there's Israeli money being thrown around to sway politicians to create these unlawful laws, and so it's such a tough little situation, because I don't know what's right or what's wrong. Being an ally doesn't mean they are ethical. Saudi Arabia is a big ally too, right? And Saudi Arabia, whew. Yeah, Saudi Arabia has some shit going on. The Israel-Palestinian conflict is way too complicated to judge, in my opinion, but murdering people is always wrong. I agree. It means they have power. Yes. And another quote that was brought up is like, if look to whoever's, if you can't criticize a certain group of people, then you know who's in power. And so, like, criticizing Israel is totally wrong, which Listen, again, I'm not on any side here. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And I think you're right, Morby. I think it's a very complicated thing for us to figure out on a podcast. But I'm really interested in seeing where Roger Waters sort of falls on it. Is it propaganda that's been propagated against him to discredit whatever he says? Does he really dislike a whole group of people? And because there's just so much information out there that screams one or the other, and I don't think that's the case. I don't think that he hates anybody, and you're hearing it from him himself. Obviously, no one's gonna go on TV and be like, "I hate the Jews," and don't anybody clip that, fuckers. I can see it both ways. It sucks Palestinian people were displaced, but also where do we put all the Jewish people? Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I don't get it, but I see what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying. He does have, and to limit someone's speech to speak about, what they feel is right or wrong is, especially here in the United States, is a big, it always has pushback. It always has pushback, even though we're leaning more towards in that side where it's like, you can't say this, you can't say that. And though they can't make you do it, the government can't technically make you do it. Companies can be pressured, and that trickles down to bosses, that trickles down to social media. People who run social media will censor you. So censorship is always, that's a big thing here, What we need to remember is that Israel equals Judaism. Or does not equal Judaism? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, and like the thing is that there's a difference between a government and its people, right? When we talk about China, who actually has enslaved Uyghur Muslims in their country right now, Chinese people aren't terrible people, but the government does have their hands in some really icky situations, right? Human rights violations everywhere. They put up nets on the outside of these buildings where they make our iPhones. Where they're making our iPhones, that we buy, they have to put nets on the outside of them. So when people go to jump off them to kill themselves, they can save them and put their asses back to work, right? So, that speaks volumes. Only Nick Cannon would do that. Yeah, Nick Cannon has some interesting ideas. You should be able to criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic, but it's a slippery slope. Well, that's the thing. You can't criticize. That's what's happening right now, is the ability to criticize or have an opinion about something without being taken down. And it's not necessarily a state doing it, but we have corporations, mobs, Twitter bots, they can just unleash Twitter bots on people and fucking and get their, destroy careers because they have an opinion about something. And that's the problem that we're facing right now, is that we're making hard lines and we're making it impossible for us to have conversations. We're making it impossible for us to move forward. Instead, we're staying stagnant or going backwards. And I'm a firm believer that censorship is at the heart of that. So let's hear more from legendary rock musician Roger Waters.
As far as Nassau Coliseum is concerned, and the specific thing there, I was hoping that the state attorney, I guess, I've forgotten his name for the moment, was going to try and take the case to court and was going to actually litigate with the management of Nassau Coliseum on the grounds that they were breaking some law, because it would have given us a chance to have our day in court and for what I consider to be the side of reason and dialogue and decency and the law and the Constitution and freedom and rights and being grown up about things. I think they've looked at it and thought it was too dangerous, because if they had gone to court with us, I think there's no question but that we would have won the case, and it would have provided a precedent to stop legislatures around the rest of the United States from bringing frivolous cases in similar circumstances. So, guys, I don't know where you are, but I'm really sorry that you didn't bring this out into the open, because it bears discussion that they're attempting to take away the First Amendment rights of American citizens and others.
But you are playing Friday and Saturday night at Nassau. Warsaw Coliseum.
Yeah, we are, and I really look forward to it. And we will be playing, to great audiences who will completely understand as well that there is no hatred in my show. I mean, I'm somewhat critical of the current administration in a satirical and playful way.
Yeah, Morby, I think you're right.
But my show is all about the idea that if this race, the human race, is to survive even the next 50 or 100 years, we need to start looking at the possibility of the transcendental nature of love, and we have to start looking after one another and recognizing our responsibility to others, which is what BDS is about.
So, Roger Waters, you wrote recently this op-ed piece for the New York Times headlined, "Congress Shouldn't Silence Human Rights Advocates," and this is about the proposed bill, the Israel Anti-Boycott Act. So could you explain what the act calls for and what your own experience has been with it?
Well, yeah, as I read it, I haven't read the complete draft, but and I know it sounds ludicrous, but it's true. There is a bill before Congress, S720, which seeks to criminalize support for boycott, divestments and sanctions, which is a non-violent international protest movement to protest the occupation of Palestinian land that's been going on for 50 years. And they want to make it a felony to support BDS, as far as I understand it, with criminal penalties that are, in my view, absurd. Somebody like me, for instance, if the bill was passed in its current drafting, would be subject to a fine of between $250,000 and $1 million and a term of imprisonment of up to 20 years for peaceful, non-violent political protest on behalf of basic human rights for beleaguered people, which is absurd, clearly. When you put it like that, you think, well, that's ridiculous. Why would Congress even be using any of their precious time in the legislature to even discuss such a thing, contravening as it does the First Amendment to the Constitution, which is one of the basic rights that American citizens have, freedom of speech to say what they believe.
Well, explain your own involvement with BDS. How did you come to learn of it and then to support it in the way that you have?
So that makes me wonder if that, because this is from a couple years ago. This is from 2017. So did that bill ever get passed? So Bill F270 pass? Question mark? I don't know how to do this. Emmer's first bill passes. Senate passes bill to curb roll-up abuses. Criticizing the nation's policy ain't racist. I have seen nothing that suggests wrong. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely, Primordial. He's just standing up for what he thinks is right, and that's his right. That's his right. And what's happening is he's getting othered, and that's what it seems to be. Seems to be that he's getting othered. He's getting ist. He's getting ist and dissed. Yeah, I think you're right on there. I don't think he's racist. I don't hear any racist thing. I mean, this dude was bombed during World War II. Doesn't mean you can't be racist, obviously, but he went through a war in which was propagated by a fucking crazy Austrian. We don't need to fucking name any names. And they bombed the shit out of London where he stayed, and he was a part of that bombing. He remembers as a child the shellings that went on. So it is very interesting that they would be like, well, this guy who has suffered the outcomes of war, and which was a war that, where a lot of Jews ended up getting, murdered wrongfully, terribly, horribly. It's interesting that they would just lump him into this. Again, someone who's been through war does not make them racist, unless it's anti-racism bomb. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. We'll watch a couple more seconds of this, and then we'll move on.
Well, I many years ago, in 2006, in fact, I was doing a tour, and I was asked to play in Israel, to do a gig in Tel Aviv. And I'll try and tell this very quickly.
Calypso. Let's Google it. Pink Floyd's Roger Waters discovered his father's World War II fate. He lost his father to World War II. Roger Waters pens a poem for veteran who found his father's place. Roger Waters for the Doom of Firebomb. Oh, Jesus. I'm pretty sure he was, but but that's a good question and fair enough. Roger Waters, experience World War II bombing of London. The dude's like 80. So if he was born in 1943, he would have been 2. So would he have remembered? Roger Waters, no. Waters was born in 1943, the younger 2 boys. His father and son of a coal miner, Labor Party school teacher, devout Christian. The early years, Second World War, Waters' father was conscientious objector who drove an ambulance during the Blitz. He later changed his stance on pacifism, joined the army. He was killed 5 months later during the Battle of Anzio. When Roger was 5 months old, he was commemorated in Aprilia at the Casino War Cemetery. Waters unveiled the monument to his father. So the stories were still fresh at the time. Yes, I don't think you would remember age 2, yo. Maybe not. Maybe I have that wrong. So I'm glad that we went into that. But I'm pretty sure that he mentioned something about that. Goodbye, blue sky, goodbye. Why I must speak out on Israel. I could have swore. There's a YouTube video. Pink Floyd goodbye. Oh yeah, that's the Roger Waters' bravery of being on the range. I have been at war. If you want to ask, I wasn't gonna, but I wasn't. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you, Calypso. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I hope that you were able to get out of that without too much trauma. That sounds horrifying. I couldn't imagine what that's like to be in war. So I might be wrong. Thank you, Calypso, for getting us fact-checking that, because I could have swore I've heard him talk about the bombs falling in London and that he was a part of that. I swear to God, I thought that he remembers those. It might have been a podcast somewhere. I don't know. But, we can't find it. Papacito, thank you so much, buddy, for that lurk. You enjoy your lurk.
And I started getting, I agreed to do a gig in Tel Aviv, and I immediately started getting emails from people saying, are you sure you want to do this? And then I was told about BDS, which was started by Palestinian civil society in 2005. And I engaged in a dialogue, that famous word, with these people and with Palestinians. And they convinced me that I should cancel the gig that we were going to play in Tel Aviv. But as a kind of an act of compromise, I moved the gig to a place called Neve Shalom, or Wahat As-Salam, I think it is in Arabic, which is an agricultural community where many different religions, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Druze, all live together. Their children all go to school together, and so it's an agriculture. They grow chickpeas for a living, and so we did the gig there outdoors, and it was a huge success. 60,000 Israelis came, no Palestinians, of course, because they're not allowed to travel, but. Which is kind of the start of my story. At the end of that gig, I stood up, and they'd been hugely enthusiastic, the audience, and I said, you are the generation of young Israelis who have the responsibility to make peace with your neighbors and to figure out this terrible mess that your country has got itself into. And there was complete silence. It was like, I saw this 60,000 kids all looking at me going, what is he talking about? This is not in the script. So anyway, I went back the next year at the invitation of UNRWA.
The United Nations agency?
Yes, exactly. A lovely woman called Allegra Pachea, who
Yeah, no problem, Primordial. We're going to get off here too. So, just a little bit more background on Roger there. So there it is. Yeah, I think Primordial, you made a good point there, buddy, that, it doesn't seem like he's racist. It doesn't seem like he's anti-Semitic. It seems like that he's just sort of sticking up for something that he believes in. And so, yeah, I don't think that Roger Waters is evil. I don't think we need to cancel him, although we can if you want to. God damn it. There we go. Roger Waters has been canceled, folks.